So I went to the Pokemon Center in Hiroshima recently. It was during Pokemon's celebration of Gold and Silver's 25th anniversary, and a couple of the premium items that they had, their words, not mine, were the Golden Ho-Oh and Silver Lugia. When I was there, only Lugia was available. I really wanted both as a set, so I took a risk and I didn't buy Lugia. I went back home to Fukuoka empty-handed, but warm-footed. I bought socks. I hoped that the Hakata Pokemon Center would have both, so I called, but again, no Ho-Oh, only Lugia. What I said in my Hiroshima video really ate away at me, and ultimately I decided that I would be okay with only Lugia. 25 years ago, I played Silver, and I played Soul Silver when the remakes came out. Also, I can distinctly remember disliking Ho-Oh when I was a child, so I don't really need the set, right? I really wish that was the case. I might not have liked Ho-Oh when I was a kid, but I do now. I didn't like naps when I was a child, but things change. Life be like that. I'm never gonna like mustard though. You can't pay me. But nonetheless, I bought the Lugia plushie by itself, and I called the Hakata Pokemon Center every day at 10 in the morning, and again when I got off of work, but to no avail. It appears like Ho-Oh ain't gonna be back on shelves anytime soon, maybe ever. I have to accept that it's only gonna be Lugia and Wooper. This took me down a rabbit hole of frustration, and I'm not going into any rabbit holes alone. You're coming with me, because I made the mistake of looking up the Golden Ho-Oh online, and what I saw made me sick. For reference, if you buy these at retail, they are 4,400 yen. At best, people were selling Ho-Oh for roughly 8,000 yen, and they were selling a set of both Ho-Oh and Lugia for 12,000 yen. You could also buy Lugia by itself for 6,000 yen, and these were on Japanese websites. When I went to American websites, I wanted to barf. People were attempting to sell the Ho-Oh by itself for 12,000 yen. They were trying to sell sets for way more than that. The thing that disgusted me the most, it unlocked pent-up memories that I've had buried down for years, are posts like this. Pre-sale. I only saw one like this time, but it just brought back bad memories. This particular seller didn't even have the products at the time of this listing, which I think is technically against eBay's terms of service. Also, it's so weird to me that you can do pre-sales on an item when you can't even guarantee it. And it all seems like it's people who are living in Japan who are trying to sell outside of the country to places like France, the UK, and the US. At the time of writing this video's script, you can still buy the Golden Ho-Oh off of the American and UK Pokemon Center's websites, and I hope that that stays true for a while. The frustration only continued for me because I decided to look at sold listings. Now, it seems like these are selling really well on Japanese websites as a set for about 12,000 yen. I believe that you can communicate with the seller and say things like, if you get the price down, I will buy, which is one reason why they are selling. They're not selling as well on sites like eBay, but that's not to say that they're not selling at all. They're not selling as well. They're still selling. The seller who had a pre-sale was able to sell a set for 23,000 yen. No! And people are also able to sell Ho-Oh by itself for almost 10,000 yen. This makes me want to pull my hair out. But I won't, because I got a perm and my follicles are delicate. My personal situation and finding videos of people absolutely ransacking Pokemon cards at Costco is what drove me to start writing this script. Now, I'm gonna break this video up into 3 parts. I guess 4 if you include the inciting incident. First, I wanna talk about the history of scalping because this is not a new phenomenon. It's been going on for a while. Second, I want to talk about my history with scalping and what I've witnessed firsthand. And last, I want to discuss how we can tackle this problem and fix it. It's going to be the shortest but loudest part of the video because, spoiler alert, this rabbit hole is deep and mucky. And we're not getting out of here without someone losing a foot. Or breaking a leg.
Cabbage Patch Kids. Each doll is different, and you can pretend to adopt them.
My baby has a real diaper.
We're doing a background change just to keep me active and moving. Like I said, I'm trying out some new stuff. We're trying out some new stuff. Let's see how this goes. So if you Google the history of scalping, you're going to get some wild results that are only semi-related to what we're talking about today. To sort of define scalping, it is when someone buys a specific product, usually in multitudes, with the intention of selling that product for twice, 3 times, or 4 times the MSRP price. Sometimes even more. What does MSRP stand for? Manufacturer's Suggested Retail Price. So I just said manufacturer's suggested retail price, like ATM machine. Scalpers usually buy as much as possible to create an artificial demand. I think in reality, if scalpers weren't scalping, then the supply likely could meet the demand in most cases. But not in all. Sometimes scalpers can see that the manufacturer clearly has not made enough to fit the demand, and they take advantage of that. So now we have sort of an understanding of how I define scalping. That's right, the MSRP price definition was my definition. I want to say before I go any further that any of the products I'm going to talk about could have their own singular video on the topic of scalping. I did a lot of research, but I don't want to discuss every single detail. I'm in no way an expert. I'm just a sour 30-year-old with a creative writing degree and a camera that I don't know how to use. Before scripting this video, I read about Cabbage Patch Kids being scalped and sold. But if you Google scalping Cabbage Patch Kids, don't do that. Instead, I just did what any good English major does, and I went to Wikipedia. Cabbage Patch Kids were insanely popular dolls in the mid-1980s, so much so that during the 1983 Christmas season, there were what the media called Cabbage Patch riots. And some of this just looks insane. I read a story of someone who was trampled and broke their leg, and people just kept trampling them. Another story has a store manager wielding a bat and waving it around to try to fend off people. And I'm so glad that's never happened to me. A Vintage Everyday article that I read states that there were 3 million units sold in 1983, and they think they could have sold more had they been able to keep up with the demand. They were able to keep up with the demand moving forward into the year 1984, but a lot of the damage had already been done. Before the internet, people would grab up these dolls in stores for $21, and they would go on to try to sell them in newspaper ads for up to $75. And the Cabbage Patch craze meant that people were buying these freaky little dolls for $75 with no problem. Ultimately, I think that's the problem, because if people are willing to buy products at inflated prices, well, then scalpers gonna scalp. Now, I can't find any proof that there was any sort of scalping in the sense of what we see today. From the looks of it, products could not meet demand, and people had to line up hours before stores opened if they wanted a shot at getting one of these dolls. Even then, you could only get one of the dolls if you got a ticket. You had to line up in beautiful December weather to get a ticket to buy these horrifying creatures. Because of this and the ravenous crowds, people probably couldn't buy a crap ton of dolls to try to sell in the newspaper. That's not to say it didn't happen. However, I think people saw what happened here, and it has slowly evolved into what we know today.
And hold on, because his whole body shakes with laughter.
The next thing to look at is Tickle Me Elmo. Everyone knows Tickle Me Elmo. You know, you tickle it, it laughs, and it's terrifying if it begins to get low on battery.
Some guy trying to update
That is
everything.
the worst sight I have ever seen.
Tickle Me Elmo, just like the Cabbage Patch Kids, was another in-demand item. This one released in 1996, and with a little boost from an appearance on the Rosie O'Donnell show, Tickle Me Elmo's popularity exploded. It took me forever to say that line. Thanks, Rosie O'Donnell. Tickle Me Elmo's retail price was $28.99, but people were taking out ads to sell these bad boys for way more. The article that I read claims to have found an ad of someone asking for $1,500, and it reports that someone was able to sell it for $100. I bought it for my nephew, but with the high demand, I decided to sell, says Clarence Howard, 28, who unloaded his Elmo for $100 on Christmas Eve. Bills have to be paid. Bullshit. It's the 1990s. No one pays bills. Everyone's sitting around eating Fruit Gushers, watching Rocket Power, and playing GoldenEye. So these are two examples of people buying hot, in-demand items and selling them through the use of newspapers. But then there came a widespread tool that made it much easier for scalpers to buy and sell products. The internet. Thanks, Mark Zuckerberg. And this is when I had my first vague memories of hearing about scalping because my ex-stepmother was very obsessed with Beanie Babies and heroin.
In April, Princess Beanie made in honor of Princess Diana will be launched.
The timeline is a little bit weird because Beanie Babies were around before Tickle Me Elmo, if I'm correct, but their craze was later and longer. Their value has mostly died down, but there are still a few that can catch you a couple bucks on eBay. A while back, there was a special Princess Diana Beanie Baby that was being sold online for a lot, but other than that, I haven't heard much about Beanie Babies recently. The reason that Beanie Babies are so important is that people no longer needed to use newspapers to sell their goodies to pay their bills. Nah, they could use the internet. Uh-oh! Beanie Babies are sort of credited as being one of the first internet fads. They showed people just how successful a true scalping business could be. Beanie Babies were purposely limited in stock and how long they were on shelves, which gave them a certain allure that other stuffed animals didn't have. There are reports of Beanie Babies selling for insane amounts of money. You could buy them in-store at MSRP for $5. Or you could buy them on eBay for prices ranging from $25, 5 times the price, to up to $1,000, which is way, that is ridiculous. And from the sounds of it, a lot of people were willing to spend this money, but some sellers actually weren't even sending out the product. In Pensacola, Florida, a woman named Melissa Ann Stiver auctioned off rare editions online for more than $1,000 a pop, then failed to deliver the goods. Stiver was arrested in February 1998 on multiple counts of grand theft after a Tennessee collector complained that she had never received Nana the monkey or Chili the polar bear. She paid $2,500 for the two together, money Stiver spent on home improvement projects. That's nearly $1 million in today's money. Or $5,000 if you round down. That is crazy. There is nothing that I can say about it to make it funnier or more interesting. That's just it's just crazy. I did get a blast of nostalgia from reading the words Nana the monkey. Then I read this. One Nashua, New Hampshire couple used forged checks to buy $2,400 worth of the valuable toys, then resold them at a profit to buy heroin. What? Oh my god. I wrote the ex-stepmom heroin joke before I read that article, I promise. Also, I made sure to message my half-brother to get permission to make fun of his mother, and he thought it was hilarious. And the last thing in this section of the video that I want to talk about is scalping bots. Scalping bots are basically tools that buy up a bunch of tickets for sporting events and concerts. Because of things like scalping bots, you'll probably never go to a Taylor Swift concert without paying a month's salary. That's right. Taylor Swift has officially entered the lexicon of a FreeXax video. Before doing any kind of research for this video, I knew of scalping bots, but not how they work. But when I googled scalping in the monetary sense, articles about scalping bots were the first to show up. I wrote the line,
"Scalping bots are basically tools that buy up a bunch of tickets for sporting events and concerts,"
before doing any genuine research on the topic, and it's a lot worse than I thought. There are many kinds of bots, and as it turns out, ticketing companies are getting much better at blocking bots from mass ticket buying. But the bots are still capable of scalping everything else with API scrapers. Now, if you don't know what API scrapers are, let me just try to explain it to you by saying they start by making multiple fake accounts and preparing those accounts with credit cards in advance. When products go live, the bots can bulk buy much faster than regular humans like you or me can even blink. On top of that, with multiple scalpers using multiple bots, it slows down the traffic of the website, which makes it even harder for real human beings like you or me to get the products. And that is one example of what these bots can do. Reading about it makes me angry because, one, I really don't like scalpers, and two, I'm too dumb to understand it. Supposedly, the bots have gotten really good over the years, so security nets like CAPTCHAs don't even work on them anymore. Doing research for this video made it clear to me that CAPTCHAs are really only useful to slightly inconvenience real human beings. Businesses can try to fight back against these bots by limiting the amount of an item that consumers can buy, but once again, multiple accounts. Anytime that new technology or a defensive method is figured out, scalpers find a way to counteract it somehow. The scalping meta keeps developing, and the scalpers are winning, just like Mewtwo Dex and Pokemon TCG Pocket. Like I mentioned, I think that any of these products and the scalping bots are worthy of their own singular video. There are videos out there, you just gotta find them. I just want to use these to build a simplistic understanding of scalping. There's so much more. There's so much more. Now, with the context and some history of scalping out of the way, I want to talk about my history with scalping.
Supercharge your gameplay with new amiibo from Nintendo.
It's story time!
Okay.
My introduction with scalping was with amiibos. In hindsight, it doesn't seem as bad as Cabbage Patch Kids or Tickle Me Elmo, but oh boy, it was anxiety-inducing. I loved amiibos, and I wanted 2 of each. 1 in box, and 1 to play with, because nerds be like that. I had quite a few advantages when it came to buying amiibo. First, my girlfriend in university was also an amiibo nerd, and we could sort of tag team anywhere that we went. Amiibos also sometimes had that ticketing system, and you would have to get a ticket before you could buy them. If we wanted 1 in box and 1 to play with, 2 people, 2 tickets, 2 of every amiibo. Second, I was real tight with a lot of the managers of places like GameStop and all of my local game stores. People would do me a lot of favors, which is how I got a hold of some items that were looking real scalpable. And third, and probably most important, I worked at a Toys R Us. I could sometimes get information on when we'd get items, and since I often stocked the amiibos, I could hold them for after work or have my girlfriend at the time come and buy them. This was likely against the rules, but my manager and assistant manager loved me, so I could do no wrong. Also, Toys R Us doesn't exist in America anymore, right? So I can't get in trouble, right? Because of the combination of all of these, I was able to get the entire amiibo set, all in box, and all with 1 to play with. I didn't have to stoop to buying from scalpers, but I did check online every day to see what they were selling them for, which only added to my anxiety and frustration. And what I'm about to tell you, I'm not particularly proud of. I'm not really proud of what I've already told you. I never scalped, and I never bought from scalpers. I want that known. But my absolute salt and scorn for scalpers led to me doing some, in hindsight, uncool shit. Some of the amiibo were exclusive to particular stores. Off the top of my head, Jigglypuff was exclusive to Target, and Lucario was exclusive to Toys R Us. I can't remember every detail, and I might get some of the information wrong because it was 10 years ago and I drink a lot now. But here are some of the things that I do remember. I remember going to Target early in the morning to get a hold of Jigglypuff. There weren't any pre-sales. I remember waiting in the parking lot an hour or so early and watching cars pull up one by one. We scouted out each car, looking for people that looked like nerds and for those that looked like guilty scalpers. It was a good old Kansas standoff. I'm pretty sure once there were too many people for comfort, I got out of the car first. I was first to line up, and what makes me ashamed about this experience is that I ran. As soon as Target's doors opened, I dashed to electronics like some hungry coyote. I'm pretty sure that me running made other people run too, so about 20 people just dashing through Target. I am so thankful that nobody got trampled. Needless to say, in a less extreme example, I can remember waiting in line outside of Best Buy because they had a restock of Lucario. And at the Toys R Us in our town, we had only received 2 of the Lucario upon its release and never got any sort of restock. And I was able to get my hands on 1 of those Lucario. But I needed another to play with, so we went to Best Buy. I don't think I remember any running, but I do have a memory of seeing someone holding just a pile of amiibo. And I think I said something like, "I fucking hate scalpers," loud enough to where they could hear me. That's right. I'm kind of a passive-aggressive badass. I'm pretty sure I skipped a class to buy one of these amiibo. It might have been Jigglypuff. Student loans well spent. And now I want to talk about the worst thing that I did during the amiibo craze. It's something I feel guilty about. It's not something I'm proud of at all. To help tell this story, I contacted my good friend Justin because we used to work together at Toys R Us. It's how we met, and he helped me get the job. We also used to do YouTube together, and I thought it'd be nice to get him in on this video. Hey Justin, it's been a while.
Hi. It has been a while. We didn't even do the sync clap. It's been so long.
Oh my god, should we do a sync clap real quick? Justin, just let's give some context. How did we meet? Like, I have a version of my story, but I know like our rough, like maybe first couple meetings. I don't know how correct I am. You might know more. You're smarter than me.
Thank you for noticing. The version that I have in my head is close to correct, but I know it's been exaggerated and glamorized a little bit because I have a very clear image of me like working at Toys R Us, being behind the counter doing some bullshit, I don't know. And you come up, you slam your hands on the counter and say, "What is the worst video game you have?" To which I react, mildly stunned, and then immediately go, "iCarly for the Wii."
But there's also the time that I don't know why, but I pre-ordered Mario Kart 8 from Toys R Us. When I went to go pick it up, you were the person who rang it up for me. When it rang up, because like there was no shenanigans. I brought in my card or whatnot. I don't remember what the pre-order system was like, but I was like, "Here, I have this pre-order." You rang it up, and it rang up as like 2 cents. I was prepared to pay the full $60 amount, and then eventually you were like, "Well, it's ringing up as 2 cents. I can't fix anything. Congratulations." The reason that I want to bring that up specifically is two things. One, Toys R Us's systems, their pre-ordering systems, arguably faulty.
It was, and in fact, later that day, because you came to pick it up almost first thing in the morning, and then later that day, I want to say maybe early afternoon, I don't know, it's been like 10 years, we got an email that was like, "Hey, we know the pre-order system is screwed up, here's how to fix it."
I have a confession to make, because we worked at Toys R Us together. Eventually, I started to work with you. Do you remember what was the exclusive Toys R Us amiibo? The exclusive amiibo that I can remember was Lucario. And the day that it came out, ya boy, it was on shift. We had like a little back room in Toys R Us, and I got like all that supply, and I found the only 2 Lucario that we had gotten. We had only gotten 2. Only 2. In the entire, like, city of Topeka, the Toys R Us exclusive amiibo, we got 2. I found them, and they were like high up, and I later on came to find out that things that were high up were supposedly pre-orders. I didn't know that. When I found these 2 amiibo, and I like checked, and I was like, with like this SKU scanner or whatnot, I like checked it, and I was like, "Yep, only 2. We only gonna have 2. We don't know when we're gonna get any more." I contacted my girlfriend at the time, and I'm pretty sure she came and she bought one of them. I like held it under the counter, and she came and she bought one like first thing in the morning. Maybe 10-ish minutes later, a dude walked in with pre-sale cards, and he was like, "Hey, I've come to pick up my 2 Lucario amiibo." I feel so guilty about this because I sold this guy's amiibo. At the time, I convinced myself, "Oh, this guy wants to buy 2 amiibos because he wants to scalp them and he wants to sell them." So I had like completely justified in my brain that it was okay that I did this. I've felt guilty about this for so long because I was so desperate to get these amiibos that I like underhandedly stole this guy's amiibo. I paid full price for it. Actually, no, we had the discount, so I didn't pay full price. And I want it known that all this happened because you didn't properly train me. So I've been guilty for forever because you didn't tell me where the pre-orders are at, and I just want it known that Toys R Us' system is faulty and my trainer sucked. So this is my fault. This is all your fault, Justin. How do you feel about that? How do you feel that you're responsible for years of pent-up guilt? White Lucario guilt.
I was of equal level of you. Our supervisor was Steven.
So yeah, ultimately, I don't understand why Toys R Us went under. We never got a restock of Lucario for like months. We just didn't get one.
I think it was almost a full year before we saw him again.
Do you have any memorable experiences with scalpers that don't necessarily relate to amiibos?
Hatchimals, these like Furby kind of things that came out of eggs. When we got major releases of those, when we got not releases, but we got major restocks, we actually made an event out of it. Instead of just putting the stuff on the shelves, even though they've already been out, this stuff's already been released, it's just was hard to find until we would get like a large shipment in. When we'd get the large shipments, we would put them behind the electronics desk, give people like little slips of paper with numbers on them, because we didn't have an official tagging system or ticketing system, and then come up to the electronics counter, get one, and then buy it right there. There were definitely people who would argue with us to try and get more than our limit. There were people who would like leave and come back 6 hours later expecting a different person behind the desk. We had one guy that I remember when we did one of the big Hatchimals restocks. To keep the line under control, we unboxed all the Hatchimals and they were like behind the desk in kind of a secured area that was hard to get into. And so they were all out of boxes, all very visible, and somebody had pulled out their phone and like had it up and was just going like this across and making a record of everything that we had. This is a video to put on like a Facebook scalping group. There's no other reason to be as visually thorough as that. Oh my god, no. Okay, one of my first years at Toys R Us, the PlayStation 4 and PS4 and the Xbox One came out right about the same time, right before a Black Friday, and these I'm assuming a husband and wife pair were walking around the electronics area of the store on Black Friday with a big blue shirt that said, "I have PlayStation 4s for sale," and she had a big green shirt that said, "I have Xbox Ones for sale." And they were just walking around. Yeah, our manager refused to kick them out, even though that is quite literally illegal to try and start a transaction inside somebody else's business.
Justin, on the internet, which is where you are located for the most part, I don't believe you're a real human being anymore. Where can people find you? What kind of projects are you currently working on? If you're working on anything, is there anything that you want to plug or shout out?
Oh, in this video? No.
Oh, okay.
You can find me all over the internet, and by all over the internet, I mean on Bluesky exclusively at tensei.bardrockcafe.com. That is TENSEI.bardrockcafe. It is Hard Rock Cafe with a B. I do actual play stuff. So I do tabletop campaigns, both streamed and podcast, mostly audio only. My network very recently put out a Christmas special for Jump Leads that features Roger Craig Smith, the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog himself, which is very fun to listen to.
With the exception of one, I don't think I ever bought more than 2 amiibo. I have a memory of having 3 of a single amiibo, and I don't remember which one or why. But I do think we ended up selling the amiibos in box after the craze had died down. I wasn't trying to make a profit, but having about 50 figures in box takes up a lot of space, and I was leaving the country. I have one amiibo in my possession, Chic, and I don't know why. Maybe this is the one that we had 3 of. The other instance of scalping that I can really remember was when the remake of Majora's Mask was released. There was a special edition with a Skull Kid statue, and I really wanted it. Ultimately, I couldn't get one, but they also released a special edition Majora's Mask new 3DS XL. I didn't really need this, but I hit up my dude at GameStop and he said that if they got one in stock, he would hold it for me. And he did just that. One day after my classes, I got a phone call and I went to go pick up my new 3DS XL. I think the statues aren't worth much anymore, but this is, so I win. I barely played it, and the remake actually kind of sucks, so winning is a very low bar here. There is one more instance of scalping that I was reminded of, which took place after I had moved to Japan, and it's not video game related. Y'all remember COVID? Maybe not. I forgot. Well, the week that everything shut down in Japan, stores were emptied. People tried to make a profit online by selling hand sanitizers and toilet paper. It wasn't as extreme here as it was everywhere else, mainly America. The New York Times article that I read features a few dudes who shamelessly scalped wipes, sanitizers, and masks. Luckily, Amazon had stepped in and suspended accounts of people who were trying to sell products at insanely hiked up prices. So, good guy Amazon? Gross. Gross. And honestly, fuck those guys for trying to make a profit off the pandemic. Y'all can eat my unbidet buttocks. I don't have any more memorable experiences with scalping, as once I left America, for a multitude of reasons, I stopped collecting everything. I reached a sort of clarity, and I realized that I didn't need all of this stuff in my life. My buddy Yusha, who does all the graphics for my channel and my social medias, had told me that he had to sign up to be put on a list for a chance to buy a PS5, because if those measures weren't put into place, people would have scalped them. I've been out of the game for so long, I didn't even know we were at PS5. Getting back into YouTube and going to Hiroshima's Pokemon Center is what dragged me and now all of you here. So all of that clarity that I reached, it's gone. Now, why am I making this video? I'm not saying anything new. I'm not offering any fellow nerd any sort of insight that they don't already know. I know. This video is not for you. This video is for normal people who don't get wrapped up into this sort of situation anytime that anything even remotely special releases in the nerd kingdom, because sometimes you normal people fall for scalping and you buy gifts for your nerdy loved ones. In this exchange, I'm the nerdy loved one. I was scripting this video, but I was totally unsure about making it until until I got this. I had made it known to my friends and viewers of this channel that I wanted one, and I guess that calling the Pokemon Center twice a day might have made me look a little bit desperate, but not scalping desperate. At the very least, it was bought off of a Japanese website, so it's not from someone trying to sell it for triple the price. It was double. I think if the gift giver would have known about my absolute distaste for scalping, they probably would have just gotten me socks instead. Pokemon Center socks are next level comfortable. I was not prepared for how comfy my feet would be daily. I'm not gonna give it back though. I'm just gonna live with the guilt until I die. So it's Lugia, Ho-Oh, and Wooper, the 3 legendary Pokemon of Johto.
We gotta whack some Pokemon.
How do we fix this issue? We don't. Bye-bye. No, that seems too pessimistic. Maybe it's real, but it's too pessimistic. Realistically, the only way to fix this kind of issue is to simply not buy from scalpers. If we show scalpers that their methods and business models don't work, then maybe they'll stop? I understand that nerds, especially those with disposable income, are willing to buy things that are overpriced. But my plea to you is don't. Just don't do that. You have made it so far in life without a special edition Skull Kid statue, and you're gonna make it so much farther without it. I believe in you. And yes, I'm talking to myself. I have to edit the video. But this is the last time that anyone buys from a scalper, yeah? We can all agree on that? Yeah? Good. And my plea to regular people, if you're a nerd, please show this part of the video to your regular friends like nurses, mechanics, and people who unironically use Facebook. If you're buying a gift for one of your nerdy friends, first off, thank you. But secondly, please look up the retail price of said item and don't pay an insane amount for it. If you can get it from an online store that ain't gonna hike up the prices, then by all means. But if you're buying from a schmuck who likely acts like this, then you are participating in schmuck-like behavior yourself. I sound like a sellout right now. Buy off of Walmart.com and screw that guy trying to run a business on eBay. I don't care if he's got a wife and a kids. It doesn't change my feeling. It doesn't change my feelings on scalpers at all. If you are a scalper, I hope your car battery dies. And if you knowingly buy from a scalper, I'm gonna go to your house and pee in your sink. So this is my first time doing this sort of video, so there's probably a little bit of awkwardness to it. Also, I had to re-record this part of the video, so I am a little bit exhausted, but what'd y'all think? Be nice, I will cry. And if you are smarter than me and you have a real solution to this problem, please leave it in the comments. I'm also always open to having my views challenged, so if you genuinely think that scalping is cool and okay, let me know why. Subscribe and push that notification bell because you never know when I'm going to disappear for another 5 years, and you want to make sure that you get that notification for when I come back for a 4th time. For now, I'm going to go pee in a loved one's sink. I don't make the rules, and she knows what she did.